back to Successful Working Parents, the podcast where we talk to successful working parents. Today's guest, she is the VP of HR Operations at Curi. She is an adjunct professor of total rewards at Southern New Hampshire University. She has her PhD in human resource management. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ellen Kearney. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Hearing that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Quite the resume. We'll get into all that in a minute. First, just tell us a little bit more about your career up until now, a little background on your professional life.
Okay. Again, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here to share a little bit of my story. So I've been working in HR for a very long time, over 20 some years. I started originally from Connecticut. So I started there in the HR department, working for GE. Actually, I started as a paralegal working for GE, for General Electric. And some of the cases that we took on had to do with benefits and HR related stuff. And I'm like, this is kind of interesting. I like this HR benefit stuff. So I decided then to go back to school and get my master's in human resource management. So I attended Sacred Heart University, got my master's, and moved into the HR field. So I worked my way up from an analyst. I did some training, and kind of found my niche in the benefits side of it, benefits, payroll, compensation. I did also work as a broker. So I worked on the back side of it, helping clients, with filling out their medical, trying to decide what they wanted to do. So I worked on the broker side. So that's why I have my license to sell insurance. I always say that's my backup plan. If all else fails, I'll go work for Liberty Mutual and sell life insurance or something. So I keep
Sounds
that as
like
a
backup
plan. Yeah. So here I am, 20 some odd years later, working as VP HR operations for Curi, a medical mutual company.
Awesome. And a little bit more about your family life. You have kids?
Yes. So I'm a mom, a wife, an aunt, a sister. I have two beautiful kids. My son will be 26 in May. My daughter will be 18 in June. She's getting ready to graduate from high school. We're sending her off to college. Go Niners, UNC, Charlotte. So my husband and I will be empty nesters. He works in the technology field, and then I have two nephews and just one brother. They live in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I was a caregiver for my mom for a very, very long time. She passed in November 2021. So it's just the three of us in the house now.
How are you feeling about the empty nest approaching? Do you guys think you're ready?
My husband says he's ready. He's trying to be the macho man, if you will. Me, I, secretly cry every once in a while. I shed a little tear. It's a big change. It's the last one leaving the house. And, that's my baby girl. I had had 8 years to kind of get over the empty nester. So I'm excited for her changes. She's ready. I'm ready for her to go, but I don't know what we're going to do, my husband and I, in this house.
How would you say your career in HR prepared you or helped you as a mother? Or did it?
It did. It did. Or maybe my being a mother helped me for my HR career. It could be a little bit of both.
That was my next question. That was going to be my next question.
Because it's a lot of empathy. It's working with people, and you have to have patience. You have to have understanding. You have to be caring. I think there's a lot of HR folks that are not. They just it's a job to them, and I love HR for that reason because. Benefits are interesting. People don't really understand. It's like law. You don't really understand it, and you don't really use it until you have to, right? People don't think about the medical or dental benefits or whatever until something happens to them or their family members. And then they're lost. They don't know what to do. So they come to me, they're asking for help. And that's the piece that I like about that. And then, taking that from the mother side, raising kids is hard, and helping them understand and getting them ready for the world out here that's ever changing, like the benefits field. That was important to me. So I think they both helped me, with each other.
Yeah, I can imagine. You're also a adjunct professor. Is that correct?
Yes.
And has that been remote since the pandemic, or what's that look like?
So it's remote. I was remote before the pandemic. So I've always wanted to teach, and this will lead into, and I'm maybe, we're sure we'll talk about that, getting my PhD, but to teach as well. And again, teach in the HR field. So I was fortunate enough to find this remote position. And I enjoy it. It's usually a class of 27 students that, want to get into HR. They want their HR certificate or a career in HR, and just being able to help them. It's like mentoring, a number of people, being a mentor to them. I've connected with some of them, on LinkedIn and stayed and helped. So it's been a joy teaching them and answering questions and just working with them. So I enjoy doing that and looking to do more of that.
Yeah. And speaking about the connection between career and parenthood, I'm sure working with college kids and then having kind of similar age kids yourself has probably been an interesting experience as well.
It has. I mean, you can imagine some of them are, they're the straight A students. They get it. They come in and do their work. And then there's others that, and I try to tell them in my opening, you always post the opening message for the class. Like, this is a hard class. It's usually 8 weeks. It's a lot of, every week you have to post discussions and just kind of giving them the same kind of stories. Like, don't get behind, stay on top of it. Make sure you're talking to me, sending me emails, letting me know what's going on in your life. And unfortunately, sometimes there's those that just don't get it until the last minute, but it is the same thing. I talk to my daughter, don't wait till the last minute to do your homework. Don't wait till the last minute to talk to the teacher if you need some help. So parenting, again, is teaching the students. Absolutely.
The newly minted Dr. Kearney. How long has it been?
March 31st.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, tell us about it.
That has been a long time coming. I started and stopped twice. And the start was, I had the kids and I'm like, all right, I shouldn't be doing this. I need to give my kids the attention that they need. And then my mom, again, moved down here with us. She's, we're originally from Connecticut. She moved down here. She had dementia. And I started to see the signs and I'm like, okay, she's got to live with us. So I stopped again. Like, I got to give her this attention and get her settled. And again, she stayed here in the house with us. And finally, even, before I'm like, I need to do this. It's something that's been on my heart. It's something I've desired to do. I would love to teach in the collegiate level, whether it's, remote or in a brick and mortar. But I just said, I'm going to do it. I can figure out how to do it. My son had graduated and I just had my daughter and to get through high school. And she and I talked about it and we worked together. And sometimes we were studying together. We'd be sitting at the table. So it wasn't like I felt like I wasn't spending enough time. I mean, there was a point, like I said, I stopped where I didn't feel like I could give my family, my husband, my mom, the attention that they needed. But as everyone got older and a little bit more self-sufficient, I was like, all right, it's time for me to think about me. And I really want to do this. So it took a couple of years and it was tough, but I smile and I still smile when people say Dr. Kearney, because it was a hard road coming, and I love it though. I love it.
Yeah, and congrats again. So when was that first attempt that didn't last long? Like maybe you took a semester of classes, or when was that?
It was probably 2018, 2019, maybe. I'm trying to think. We were in our first home down here, and I did take like 1 or 2 semesters, and it was it was easy, but I felt like I was studying. I was trying to do the schoolwork, and then the kids were younger and they needed a little bit more attention. So I was like, I can't do this to them now. And I also thought about with my son going through school, not necessarily getting scholarships, but the financial aid, the financial part of it. There were a lot of reasons. I made excuses is where I'm going with that. I made excuses for it. And finally I was like, no more excuses. Like, just, we'll figure it out. Let's get this done.
And what finally happened that made you make that turn in your mind?
Again, as my daughter got older, and she was a little bit more self-sufficient, she's also very, very bright, very engaging. And she's like, you want this, we talked about it. You're like, well, you always tell me if I want something to go for it, that I can do anything that I want, that I could be anything that I want. And so, you keep stopping and you're backing out. You're not, kind of like, do what you preach. So I was like, all right, this young lady is, she's challenging me, and challenge accepted. So again, we worked together, but it was just to show her, like, you can do anything you want. And I, be a mom, be a husband, a wife, a caregiver, work a full-time job or in a part-time job, to be honest, and go to school. And I did all of it. Yeah.
So after giving all that advice, you kind of had to show that you can walk the walk, right?
Yes. Talk the talk, walk the walk. And I did. So
that's great. So what does it look like to get a PhD? It's 2 full years, it's 3 years. There's the dissertation at the end. What's the process?
So the time to get to take all the classes, that's going to be really up to you. So that took me about a year and a half or 2 years. I was taking 2 classes at a time. So if going full time and you don't have anything else to do, you could probably take 2 or 3 classes per semester. I took 2 a semester. And so that's, coursework, writing papers, doing discussion posts, responding to discussion posts. So those are the kind of the requirements in the class. And then after that, there is a comprehensive exam that you have to take and pass. And so they give you about a semester to that. They give you 3 questions. You don't know what these questions are. You have to answer questions about research and methodology and different things within your field. So you answer those questions and you submit this exam. There's 3 people reading the exam and you have to pass. I guess the 3 people all have to agree that you passed. Luckily, I passed on my first try. So very excited about that.
Congrats.
Thank you. And it would, and I say that because I was in the middle of taking my comprehensive exam when my mom passed. So I had to actually ask for a week or 2 off just to kind of go through that process of, making sure all the arrangements were taken care of. So I stopped, and coming back, it was really hard. I'm like, I don't know if I could do this. How am I going to get my head back? But, I know this sounds funny, people say, but it's kind of like she talked to me. My daughter spoke to me. It's like, you're this far, like you're at the comprehensive exams. You've taken all these classes. You got a 4.0, nothing but straight A's coming out of this. We're not going to stop now. So did the comprehensive exam. The dissertation phase was about 6 months for me. That is writing a 5-chapter dissertation about your project, your methodology, and then doing the research. And so trying to find participants for the research and getting them to answer these questions, the survey questions, and then making sure you understood that and putting that into a form that could be into a document that turns out to be a book, which I'm just happy to share. I finally got my printed book. I know
Wow.
you're not. Yes.
Can I get a signed copy?
You can get a signed copy. My daughter asked for the same thing. So it took me about maybe 2.5, close to 3 years to get everything done. And again, that's coursework, comprehensive exam, the research, and then writing out the dissertation and then defending the dissertation. That was like, I think that was the scariest part. You have these committee members and you have to explain your research and defend it. They're asking you questions and they're throwing them at you. And that was the final part of it.
What's the pass rate on the dissertation defense? Is there some percentage of students that the committee says no to?
That's a good question. As far as percentage, I do not know, like all of it. I know talking to my mentor, he says he's been in dissertations where it did not go well. The people weren't prepared. He said he had a couple where they were being asked questions and they were just very defensive because they didn't have it. So he said he's seen where people have not passed the defense. But I don't know the percentage. So
Sure. So you're working full time in HR, and then you're also going to school. Mm-hmm. So it's online class, though, right? Or are you going somewhere?
It was online. Okay. Yeah.
So tell us just a little bit more about that. Like, how do you handle the time management? Are you doing stuff before and after work on your lunch breaks? Like, how's that going?
All of that and then some. Sometimes it was early mornings. Getting up and writing writing something online or working on a paper or just reviewing it before I turned it in. But usually I was lucky enough to find during that time, have a caregiver for my mom. So she would come into the house and she'd take care of her during the day. But in the evenings when she left, that was all on me. So I would, get up, go to work. Even during the pandemic, I was working here in the remote home office. I'd work till 5 o'clock, but then I'd stop. I'd stop at 5 o'clock and then I'd be a mom or a wife. So making dinner, helping my daughter with her homework, talking to my husband, spending some time with him, going to her game. She played basketball and lacrosse, doing whatever those things were, making sure they were taken care of. She's got her homework. She's ready for bed. And then I come back. And sometimes that was 9 or 10 o'clock at night where I'm back at my desk here, writing a paper or responding to a discussion post or writing a discussion post, whatever was required at that point. And, my husband come down sometimes to be 12 or 1 o'clock. He's like, are you coming to bed? I'm like, I just need 5 more minutes to get something done. And then I turn around and I get up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and do it all over again. It took some dedication and determination. And yeah, it was hard, but it was at the point I didn't want to stop, but I knew that I wanted to give my family the attention they need, so they didn't feel like they were being neglected. And sometimes that meant, on a Saturday night watching or Friday night watching. In the man cave with my husband, with my laptop on my lap and watching TV with him. At least we were in the same room together. We could talk or whatever, but I was still doing some homework, and he was very supportive and understanding of that. So
Are there times when it's 12:30 in the morning and you're just starting to doubt why you're doing it, or maybe you even like debate stopping doing it?
Oh, absolutely. Almost every day. Like, why am I here? I could be in bed sleeping. I could be, doing a million other things. And it's funny, the doubt didn't really come back until I got towards the dissertation phase, which was really the hardest part of it. And sometimes during the writing of the papers, some of the teachers required like 10 to 20 page papers, and I don't even know where I pull those from. Some days, and you had like a week to get these things in, or sometimes 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm like, I don't even know where I pulled 20 pages of paper from. And the teachers, I would always really work hard, and they'd say, well, when you graduate with your PhD, all they're going to do is call you doctor. They know that you have a PhD. They're not going to know that you had a 4.0 or that you aced every class. I was like, but that wasn't for them. That's not for the people. That's for me. But it is something that I can share in my story because, again, I feel it's a testament to the hard work that I put into making that happen. I mean, I worked countless hours trying to do that. And yes, there are many times I'm like, why am I doing this? But you're too close now and you can't turn around. You can't stop again. So you got to keep pushing. And
Yeah.
I kept talking to myself. I had to keep going.
You mentioned the strategy of really just kind of blocking your time, working till 5,
Mhm.
then dedicating time to your family, and then getting to work with the school stuff. What other strategies were helpful, whether it was time management or did you take care of yourself in different ways? Like what were some of the strategies that helped you manage that time?
I did have to do some self care. I think that's always important. So there were times where I was a member of Massage Envy, and I just take an hour on a Sunday afternoon after church, and I go over there and just get an hour massage or a facial or something like that. Now, I was always getting my nails done, just 30 or 45 minutes of getting a manicure helps, like, and then you sit there, your nails look good, you feel pretty good, or getting a pedicure and just being able to sit back. So there were those things because they didn't take a long period of time. But I always traveled with my family as well. Vacationing and traveling was something that was important to me. Always doing a family trip with the kids, whether it's a short weekend trip or a longer cruise with them. Planning for that also was very helpful. I think having something or knowing something's coming up always was helpful. And then we'd always do a couples trip. So my husband and I would always do a long weekend or do something together as well. So having those things set in place sporadically, excuse me, throughout the year always gave me something to look forward to, something to push forward to, something to have. So I would take some time and make sure that I planned some of those things. Date nights were important, whether it was just a comedy show or going out to Red Robin. I don't know if you guys have Red Robin, but we have Red Robin, or
We do, yeah.
it's just something where we could just go and sit and talk to each other with all of this out. But I always laugh because no matter after all of doing that or whatever, and luckily he had a man cave and he's a big sports person. He'll watch any sport from hockey to golf. He loved being in that man cave, and he knew that I was here. After that, I'd still come back and sit at this desk and whether it was grading papers or looking at my own stuff. So,
You were doing the work as a professor during that time, right? That was part of it.
oh yeah, yes, I was. I was doing that as well.
Yeah.
So
So I guess there's some days where you really couldn't do any work for school because you just went from work to work, right?
exactly. Yeah. There were those times where I was, papers needed to be graded by a certain time. So they were like Saturday mornings I would get up and maybe he'd go outside and cut the grass, or he'd go play golf. And I always encouraged him to go play golf on Saturdays when it was nice. Go play golf. Cause then, I had that couple of hours where I could grade the papers, put out some discussion posts, put out my announcements. And for me in school, it was an 8-week term. I set the announcements because you could pre-write them and set them to send. So I didn't have to worry about my announcements that had to be posted every Sunday. The beginning of the term, I wrote all of my announcements. If I needed to edit them, I would, but I'd put those out there. So again, it's time management. What do you have to do? When is it due? And finding that time to get it done.
Are you prioritizing certain things? So it sounds like you actually try to prioritize spending time with your family when you can, right? So when you're juggling career and schoolwork and family, it sounds like you try to put your family first when you can.
Yes, because doing this is all for them, making sure that they're happy, making sure that my daughter felt that she was seen, heard, that she had the ability to talk to me, that she was able to, and always going to her games. Like I said, I always showed up. I stopped whatever I had to do. If I knew she had a basketball game or if she was having a lacrosse game and she could see me in the stands, making sure that I was there, always supported her in that way. And then again, like I said, making dinner. And my husband became a great cook. Like, again, he was supportive. I don't want to say that I was making dinner all the time, but there were times where he was in there cooking. So he'd allow me to get off of work at 5 and go back to work, but he'd be in there cooking dinner. And he'd do that with my daughter. And then I'd make sure I'd stop and sit at the table and eat with them. But they also knew that most of the time that I was coming back in here to get some work done. So again, having that schedule and that set time, making it mandatory, if you will, that I was making sure that I was spending that time with them. And then knowing for my class, again, the announcements that had to be done by Sunday, the grading that had to be done by Wednesday of the following week, and saying, okay, I'm not going to work on my stuff on Monday. I need to make sure that my students have the responses that they need, make sure that I'm grading their papers in time so they're getting their feedback in time to do their next thing. So there were days where like Mondays were all about SNHU and the rest of the time was all about me.
You mentioned this is something that you'd wanted to do for a long time. Where does that come from? Was there a certain reason why? Like, what was your initial goal? Like, if you have your PhD, then what?
So I thank you for that. It's a great question. It comes back from my mom. She was a single parent. And so she raised my brother and I in Connecticut, and she instilled school, and she worked as an educator. She was in the school system for 33 years in Connecticut. She worked as a parent coordinator. So she wasn't in the classroom, but she worked with parents, teaching parents how important it was to show up at school. There's a lot of parents that their kids go to school. And again, that's why it was important for me to be at my daughter's games, for her to see me in the stands. I attend all the meetings. I'm on the calls or what have you. And I got that from my mom. Her job was to teach the parents to be there for their kids, to help them get through school. So she was a rock star. We could not go to school. We could not go to college or get this degree. The certifications, the degrees, the things that I've done are all a testament to just like further learning, to bettering myself, to having options as well. Like if I look at it for me, sometimes it is having options. Okay, so if this VP of HR job, I'm terminated or maybe I'm laid off, what else am I going to be able to do? Am I marketable in any way? Are there other skills that I have? So I'm always looking for ways to supplement, if you will, the income, or to make sure that I'm taken care of and my family's taken care of as well. And that does come from my mom. So it's been a desire to get this. And everyone's like, well, what are you going to do next? Are you going to get another one? I'm not. I'm done. I really could. I've had enough. Right? One is enough, I promise. But so it does come from that, my home training, I guess you will, my upbringing.
Sure. What advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time and talk to yourself like right before you started the PhD program?
The first time I started, don't stop, push through, because I could have had it a long time ago. Trust the process and trust yourself. There was some self-doubt in there at that time. And I know, again, I said, my reasoning is taking care of the kids. They were a little bit younger and wanting to be there for them. What I did in finding the time for myself and for my kids and for my family, I could have done that, a couple of years ago. So I'd say trust the process, continue to work, to push and believe in yourself. No doubt, because my story is different from someone else. Sometimes technology, I think, has us looking at people's success and CEOs and VPs and wondering why I can't get that or why I can't achieve. But trust and make your own story, make your own way, and trust yourself. I tell myself, don't stop, just do it.
Yeah, that's important to hear for sure. You mentioned also other mentors in your life. I'm curious if off the top of your head you have any advice that really stuck out to you, like some of the best advice you've received.
Some of the best advice that I received, let's see, I'd say from a work perspective, something that's stuck with me is just mentoring and reaching back. That's why. So the title of my dissertation, it kind of ties into that, is the role of work-life balance on the career progression of minority women in North Carolina. So trying to progress your career and trying to find work-life balance, those are important to me. And I think we can find it. I think organizations should do a better job of helping us find that. But if you're not getting that support, a mentor told me, just find the balance. And that's what I think I did that helped me get through this at this time, was finding that work-life balance, being able to take care of myself, take care of the kids, and to achieve my goals. And once I put that kind of in perspective and I really started thinking about how to do that and being intentional about my goals, then I did find that work-life balance. I found that career progression, and I found that desire or that drive to continue and to finish that PhD. So I hope that makes sense. Like just finding that balance, and it's out there. You just have to sit and figure out what it is and then commit to it. If I, put all these things in place and didn't commit to them, I'd be all over the place. But I really had to like be intentional about the goals that I set and how it's going to help myself and my family.
Yeah. It sounds like you were really able to find balance, and it sounds like that was really a big key to your journey here.
It was. I think it was the key to me finishing. Like I said, starting it the first time, I wasn't really sure. Kids were younger. Mom was just starting, with dementia. I didn't have the balance, and I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. And if I really, I knew I wanted it, but it took a minute for me to realize how bad I wanted, I guess. And I guess you have to find that passion, like really dig, okay, I want this. Why do you want it? And I couldn't answer that question the very first time, but it took some guidance, some thought about it to really just realize, like, I really want to do this. And these are the reasons and how I'm going to use that. And once you find that passion, or you find that drive inside of you, use that spark, use that flame, use that fire to let it, push you to whatever you want to do. But then again, finding ways to make sure you're taking care of yourself, your family, and your job, I think is important. There's a bunch of lanes, and you got to be able to drive through all of them. It's got switching lanes.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
I don't think I told you this yet. My wife, we were expecting in July 19th.
Oh, congrats.
So, Thank you. So what advice do you have for me?
Advice for you as a newly dad. Support her.
As a new father and also just in the next 3 months. As well.
Patience, understanding, empathy, all the stuff that we learn in HR. There's going to be so many, different emotions that you'll probably go through. Obviously, the joy of having a baby, but there's going to be days where the baby's just crying, the house a mess, there's no dinner. Like you just don't even know what's happening. But just enjoy those moments because before you know it, they'll be 18, graduating, going off to college, and leaving you as an empty nester. And it goes fast. And I know you're going to hear that from a lot of people, but honestly, it does. I was looking at pictures of her, from before, how quickly it's gone. But embrace the moments, be intentional about your time with your child, spending time with them, the things you do, planning the family vacations, planning the outings. Don't let work take over. I know it's important and we have goals and things that we want to achieve, but that'll always be there. The time that you have with your spouse, with your child, those are going to be fleeting moments. So enjoy those moments, be intentional about them, and remember them. Don't just do them and they're just like, oh, all right, I did that. I checked the box. But enjoy, be in the moments. Turn off the podcast, turn off the work, turn off everything, and enjoy that. And find a babysitter and take your wife out on a date.
Okay, I will do that. All great advice. I appreciate that. Anything you want to promote or plug, or where can people connect with you on LinkedIn? Anything you'd like to share before we close out here?
Thank you for that. So anyone would love to share or reach out to me, join or connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Ellen Jefferson or Dr. Ellen Jefferson Kearney on LinkedIn. I am not plugging the book yet, but it's out there on ProQuest. If anyone wants to search for it, it's under Ellen Jefferson Kearney. But I just like to share, be intentional about it. Achieving your goals, it can seem overwhelming. It could seem like they don't matter, but they do. If you have a desire, take it and run with it. Don't just like, oh, that doesn't make sense. I don't know why I would do that. What am I going to do with this doctorate or this master's degree? But if there's a desire, that means that there's something. If you thought about it, that means there's something that you want to do, and run with it. Figure it out, sit with that, and be intentional about your goals and write your own story. Don't worry about what everybody else is putting on LinkedIn or Facebook and how successful they are or how they're making millions of dollars. Write your story. What is your story? Write your story.
All right. What a finale. Thank you very much, Dr. Kearney. It was great talking to you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.